last night we had, I think, two callers back to back that that had penetrating questions on Israel and Palestine and opinions on Israel and Palestine. And I honestly punted the football because I wanted to wait till tonight. Little did I know that today John Kerry would come out with a speech that would make that the front and center issue on the international stage today. And so I wanted to punt to today so that I could speak with Professor Max Sinkowitz of Boston College. And so he's here in the studio with me to discuss Israel, Palestine, the speech by John Kerry, Benjamin Netanyahu's response. And we're just going to do kind of a deep dive. It's been a while since I had a chance to do a full-fledged interview. And this is actually the very first in-studio interview. So, Professor Sinkowitz, how are you? Thanks so much for joining me.
No, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ben.
My pleasure. And you are the author of The Other Air Force, U.S. Efforts to Reshape Middle Eastern Media.
I brought a visual aid.
So, you brought a visual aid. Thanks so much for bringing the visual aid.
Wow.
I just got started reading it, and so far I'm learning a lot. So before we even jump into the conversation about Israel and Palestine, tell us a little, give us a little 30 seconds about the book, and then we'll see how we can tie it into the conversation.
Yeah, and it certainly does relate. So the book it's an academic book. It's published by Rutgers University Press, and it's a study of media that's being produced across the Middle East with American money, but not by Americans.
Okay.
So in order to do research for the book, I spent about 16 months in the Palestinian West Bank and about 6 weeks or so in Kabul, Afghanistan. And what I was doing there was interviewing, observing, talking to people who are creating radio shows, creating TV shows, creating films with American funding, but not necessarily very much American oversight. So, there's this old propaganda model by which America would basically create kind of fake news, fake broadcasts, right? So they would go into Iran and try to make a fake anti-revolutionary radio station. But it was really produced by Americans or American agents. These are different. These are television shows being produced by Palestinians with a little bit, but not that much, American direct oversight by Afghans who are taking American money as sort of seed money, but really trying to push in commercial directions, sometimes saying things that the American government wants them to say, sometimes saying other things, sometimes directly sort of abusing the system, breaking the system, resisting the system, taking the American money and doing something you'd be kind of surprised that they can get away with.
Right.
And so it was a process of direct observation in addition to sort of some scholarly research in terms of the history.
So if we were to listen to one of those stations today, as they listen to John Kerry, let's take the Palestinian iteration of this. How do you think they would have interpreted John Kerry's speech today and Benjamin Netanyahu's response?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to say is when it comes to news produced by stations that are being funded by America but not run by America, is that they do have a pretty good leeway in terms of independence. They're not being watched at every moment, right? It's not as though there's going to be an American overseer there checking every word. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's not how it works. So you would see certainly you would see some authentic reaction, right? The question is sort of how would it be shaped? How would it be sort of tipped? And the one difference between an organization that is funded by America in a place like the West Bank versus one that isn't is that the two-state solution is absolutely sacrosanct in terms of the American State Department, right?
Okay.
So if the response to Kerry were anything other than he's right, the Israelis are taking actions that are hurting our one chance at peace, this could be a problem, right? This could be something that if you're paying for this, if this money's coming out of U.S. tax dollars, then that could be a problem for a local producer working in the Palestinian territories. If you were listening to a station that had nothing to do with the United States, you might get more of the reaction, something along the lines of it's already over, right? That perhaps the two-state solution isn't the mode under which we should be thinking. That all of these things that Kerry said could happen if it continues have already happened.
Right.
So Kerry's making an argument in this speech that if Israel doesn't change its ways, right? If it does not take a different tack when it comes to settlements and looking at long-term solutions, they're going to end up in a place of, he of course wouldn't use the word apartheid, but he's implying that, right?
Yeah.
He's implying that's where they're going to be. A station that has nothing to do with the Western world might just go out and say it's already there.
Yeah.
Right.
What was interesting, and we'll get into the actual speech itself, was he actually used the language separate, almost separate but equal, which in many ways was like, I think the closest I've ever heard that level of American leadership get to saying apartheid. What'd you think about that?
Well, in terms of what? What do you mean by separate but equal?
In terms describing the relationship between Israel and Palestine, he kind of leaned towards that language. And actually, I'm going to play a couple of clips here, and we'll take a listen to it and kind of dissect what he had to say. But I just felt like it was a one Palestinian observer on MSNBC called it the same policy, but just louder.
Oh, that's for sure.
Far more vocal. Yeah. What do you think about that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that, and it depends what your long-term goals are, all right? If, I am somebody who can see no, as bad as it looks, I can see no better solution than a two-state solution. So when I hear Kerry say these things, I say, yeah, okay, that sounds about right. On the other hand, nothing has been done to back up these actions.
Exactly.
Right. So it is the same policy. It is a little bit louder, but part of the issue is that it's actually not any louder than like older Republican administrations. So if you look back, you've got the right making this huge deal out of the fact that Obama allowed an anti-Israel
resolution.
And that's, we put that in quote, right? But anti-Israel resolution to pass. And I've seen various ways of counting, but Reagan, you could say had somewhere between 15 and 25, something like that.
Okay.
Right. You had actions taken by George H.W. Bush, which were clearly more hostile as the direct result of Israel not halting settlements.
Right.
There's nothing new about this at all. So it sounds louder, but it actually is quieter. Right? If you know what I'm saying?
No, that's actually perfect. So it's louder by comparison for the Obama administration.
Yeah.
But not louder by comparison to Republican administrations, which is the greatest irony that now Republicans are coming out as though they are so super pro-Israel. But if you look at their patriarchs, right? If you look at their
patron
beloved,
saints,
their patron
right?
saints,
Yeah.
exactly. This is nothing compared to those administrations.
Yeah, this has been the policy for since 1967. The policy has been that eventually there's going to be some pullback. Right, Israel will not maintain an occupation in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and other places some of which have been dealt with, some haven't. That has been the American perspective. There's nothing new in anything that Kerry said. It's not a change. What's new is the way in which it's able to create this furor and this fervor. When in fact it's really it's at best a repeat and perhaps a watering down of the kind of attitudes that we saw in the 1980s up until the Oslo Accords in 1993.